Have you ever seen a cryptid? Okay, and better yet, what is a cryptid?
Oh, well, I actually know the answers to that, and I have some good ideas about that.
Hey friends, welcome to Nonsensicality.
Okay, so the question was, have you ever seen a cryptid?
Yeah, what is that?
You don't know what a cryptid is? Have you ever heard of cryptozoology?
Yeah.
Okay, well, today's episode of Nonsensicality, we're talking about nature's mysteries, particularly cryptozoology and cryptids. Cryptozoology, I'm just going to read it according to Bing.com, that it is the search for and study of animals whose existence or survival is disputed or unsubstantiated, such as the Loch Ness Monster and the Yeti.
And the weird uncle that we don't talk about at Thanksgiving.
Well, no, we know they exist. We just don't talk about them. It's a little different. So anyway, animals that fall into the field of cryptozoology are called cryptids. Okay, so like for instance, Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, you heard of that, right?
Yeah.
Abominable snowman, or the Yeti, right?
Right.
Loch Ness Monster, or the Chupacabra. Have you ever heard of that one?
Oh, yeah. That's from Mexico, right?
It's from Latin America. Actually originated in Puerto Rico.
Ooh.
Yeah, and which I guess literally translates goat sucker. So,
Scooby-Doo!
Yes.
Scooby-Doo went and hunted for the Chupacabra.
Yes, it's apparently known for sucking the blood of goats and things like that. Some weird
Dude, I knew
dog-like
cartoon knowledge would pay off.
And then there's some other lesser known or maybe kind of supernatural sounding, like the Jersey Devil. You ever heard of that one? From the South Jersey Pine Barrens, thought to be part human, horse, bat, like the child of the devil kind of thing.
Nice. Nice.
Champ from Lake. Now this is kind of like our own version of Nessie in the United States. Lake Champlain, which is between New York and Vermont and shares the border with Canada, has what they call Champ, and it is like a Loch Ness Monster type.
Nice.
Cryptid.
It's like a cousin of Loch Ness.
Or the Mokele Mbembe. You ever heard about that?
Oh, please say that again. I didn't quite hear you.
Mokele Mbembe. Out of the Congo, which is actually thought to be like a sauropod, like a dinosaur that had survived,
Nice.
since extinction. So that's kind of cool, So there's basically cultures all over the world have cryptids and things that we have not been able to identify or the existence is even disputed.
Like my weird uncle at Thanksgiving.
We know he's there. He may be listening. Your weird uncle may be listening. You never know.
He's not.
All right, but anyway, you don't have a weird uncle. I'm usually the weird uncle, actually. But
that's true.
Anyway, so all right. Here's the thing. So could these all the legends, all of the sightings throughout the world, could they be lies or mass hallucinations or hysteria, or is there some validity to this? Now think about this: the Loch Ness Monster, which is thought to be a plesiosaur, like an aquatic dinosaur, has been spotted over 1,000 times, with sightings dating all the way back to 565 AD. 565 AD. That's according to...
I bet that camera footage is just messed up.
Very, very fuzzy. According to Britannica.com. Okay, and in 2017 was actually a record-breaking year for sightings, with 11 sightings in that year. So that was like a record-breaking...
Really?
Yeah. So it's like you would think with the more cameras and things like that we would be able to see less of that, or we would debunk more. But
I really enjoy those TV shows that go out to search for the unknown thing, and all you see is them running. So you don't see the thing that you just see the camera bouncing and they're running, and
and the camera's aimed at them. Which is always my favorite thing, because they're freaking out because the camera's aimed at them, and they're like, what was that? Did you see that? And we're like, no, the camera's aimed at you.
Talking.
And we're going to actually talk about one of those shows in a little bit, so it's funny you brought that up. Of course, the most popular photographic evidence of Nessie is known as the surgeon's photograph from 1934, which looked kind of like a sauropod-type dinosaur with its really long neck, and head sticking out of the water. You've probably seen that one. That one actually turned out to be a hoax. It was proven to be a hoax, so it did not...
I thought it was.
Yeah, it was not a solid enough evidence, proved to be a hoax, and so keeps people from believing in Nessie, although there are, a lot of the residents they've had an encounter, they say it is, and so, they continue to believe, but there's no concrete evidence of Nessie. Okay, what about Bigfoot? Bigfoot. I mean, over the last century, there have been thousands of eyewitness accounts of Bigfoot from Washington State all the way to Florida. Although sometimes they have different names, like the skunk ape or the
skunk ape. Connor saw one of those when he was little on a car trip, and all he could say is, "Oh, that smells awful."
No, that was just a skunk. But
could have been the skunk ape.
It could have been. We might have hit a skunk ape, a very tiny one.
You didn't know.
But anyway, no, that's the one in Florida is known as the skunk ape because, and a lot of the legends actually of Bigfoot, I've heard that they smell something like a really nasty smell and then they see Bigfoot. So
nice.
Well, what do you think? Is this giant?
He doesn't bathe.
Thing? He doesn't bathe, I'm sure. I mean, like there's no zestfully clean.
It's true. Did you know that I met Bigfoot's cousin?
Oh, no. Did you now?
I did.
Pray tell.
Littlefoot.
Littlefoot? You mean like from Land Before Time? The ridiculous cartoon that had like a dozen sequels? Sorry if you're a Land Before Time fan. Actually, I'm not sorry. This is ridiculous.
Littlefoot. Yeah, mystery solved.
Those were, oh no. Horrible. Horrible. All right, but still, most rational Americans don't believe in its existence. Why? Because we have no solid photographic or videographic proof, right? So at least nothing that's solid enough to convince a skeptic, okay? And, there are multiple alleged videos and photos of Bigfoot. Perhaps the most popular one is called the Patterson-Gimlin footage.
Is that the one where he's walking on the rocks?
That's the one, right. He's walking kind of in like there's fallen trees nearby, and he's kind of got that really cool swagger,
He looks so cool.
Yeah, so that one is the most popular one. He kind of looks over his shoulder at you like saying, "Hey, how's it going?" And I keeps on walking. Yeah. So that one is probably the most popular one. Has not been disputed, has not been proven to be a hoax.
Really?
There's no, but people are, or at least to my knowledge, maybe it has by now, but people are still like, at best, I mean, because clearly it's not, it predates CGI. Clearly it's something walking and it's not just a man in a fur coat, but it could be a guy in a gorilla costume.
Man in a fur.
It could be, some people, a skeptic would be like, he's wearing a costume, it's faked, and so that.
I like that picture.
Yeah. So, but still, it is not. It's not enough for your skeptic. Okay. And so, and it's like this with most cryptid encounters. A person sees it, possibly snaps a fuzzy photo or a shaky video of it. Kind of like you were saying, they swear up and down it's real, and people laugh and point at them and recommend a therapist. But we live in a day and age. We live in the tech day and age, right? So this is like the day and age where this can be caught on film. We can catch these things. We have to. We've got critter cams everywhere. I've got friends, at least half a dozen friends that all have critter cams. The trail cams. They take pictures whenever something passes in front of them. None of them have evidence of Sasquatch. Lots of deers, raccoons, things like that. And you would think DNA evidence now, like that's big. Why are we testing for DNA evidence? So we're going to look at 3 pretty popular cryptids and see some of the evidence that's been found, okay?
For or against?
Just
do I have to wait?
Evidence that's been found.
Okay.
So
I'm ready to learn.
The funny thing is, we're going to talk about DNA in particular, but I went and looked for video evidence first. And I was like, first of all, some of it's scary, but most of it is almost like...
A man in a mask?
Maybe. And here's the thing. Most of them, when I look at them, I'm like, I could do that. I can make that effect. Because I do video editing, and so I can make whatever it is they're talking. Some of them, like there's this creature that, like these people were dirt biking, and this thing started running on the trail in front of them. But I'm like, it looked CGI. It just looked, you can kind of tell if it's not real. It's almost a little too crisp and clean looking,
It all comes back to a man in a mask.
Well, no.
Scooby-Doo teaches you everything.
It's not a man in a mask. It's a man on a computer.
Right, but it's fake.
Yeah, it's in my opinion, it's fake. Now, there's one where they were up against this barn, like these teenagers, and they kept hearing this sound, and then they peeked over, and all they caught was like the top head, and it looked like an alien type head. But the sounds, I guarantee you, were pig sounds. Like somebody recorded their pig, because they sounded just like wattles. I mean, like all the sound that you hear that they said was on the other side of the barn sounded just like wattles. Like I've recorded her, it sounds just like her. So, video footage can be faked. Photographs can be faked. I've photoshopped a number of things, and you can do that. So even that can be faked. But one thing that that holds up in the court of law is DNA testing.
I'm ready.
And so we're going to look at some DNA testing that's done on 3 cryptids.
I'm ready to be educated and entertained.
Let's start with Nessie, right?
I love Nessie.
I found this article like 2 weeks ago. It was published a little over a month ago, and they did DNA testing of Loch Ness, just the water, like grabbed DNA samples from all over in the water.
Seriously, like they just took scoops of water.
Yeah, they took scoops of water because DNA can be left behind in water, and so they were just like, if this thing is out there, surely there's going to be DNA evidence of it. And guess what it found? Hey friends, Caleb here with a quick interruption and a very, very shameless plug for our new book. It's October. We're right in the middle of our mystery month on our podcast, but we've also just released a book just in time for Halloween called Piggy and the Bear Go Trick-or-Treating. Kim and I had so much fun writing this book, and we would love for you to check it out. It's on Amazon.com, or you can get it from Kindle. The quickest way to be able to get the book would be to go to camptownmedia.com, our homepage, and from there you can click right to the book. It's a fun adventure about a little pig and a little bear who just realized it's Halloween and they don't have a costume to wear, so you can help them pick out the best costume and see what happens on their Halloween adventure. Thanks for listening and thanks for checking out our book. If this thing is out there, surely there's going to be DNA evidence of it. And guess what it found?
DNA evidence of something strange.
Something, but they never got any dinosaur or, plesiosaur DNA. They never found anything that would even come close to that. But they did find lots and lots and lots of eel DNA. And Loch Ness has eels, and so it's thinking that maybe Nessie could be a giant eel, or like several different giant eels that people are seeing, or maybe several eels, and people are just thinking it's one big eel, and they're seeing several like swimming in the water.
Are eels known to swim in packs, like schools?
I don't know. I've never seen more than one. When I lived near the ocean, I'd only see them one at a time. But fun fact for you: one time I was snorkeling and I came right up on a little baby eel. Like, he wasn't very big. It scared me so much. My brother was there, and I stood up and I was like, "If that was a snake, it'd have bit me." But because
it wasn't.
But it was just an eel. Very close.
You've
heard the expression, right?
I get it. It's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's no real evidence. There was definitely nothing found in Loch Ness of that, but then lots of eel DNA. So it's possible that what people are seeing are eels.
Huh.
So there you go. There's that one. All right. Here's one. One of my favorite bits. Okay. And
I'm ready.
It's the Yeti. Okay. The abominable snowman. Right. Which people have said, claim to have seen in the Himalayan mountains for years and years and years.
Now, do you think that really exists?
My opinion is there are great apes in the world that we have not identified yet. So therefore, in some sense or another, there are cryptid great apes.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
it does.
It's kind of like, I'm not going to say there's a Yeti out there, but this one has some really good evidence. So in 2009, actually before and after that, this is like season 3, there's a show called Destination Truth. It aired on the Travel Channel and Sci-Fi Channel, which kind of takes away its credibility. But it was a reality show. They would always, Josh Gates was the host. You and I would watch it together all the time.
I liked that show.
That was a good show. It was fun. But most of the time, it's like you said, it's like they had snorkel cameras, but they aimed them at the people with night vision. So all you saw was people freaking out and running in the dark with the night vision aimed at them. And then they had our favorite camera, which was the FLIR camera, the thermal imager.
Oh.
And they would catch something way off in the distance walking around, and it was just this little red blurb on the screen that was like, oh, something's out there, but you could never find out what it was. And so
no, because they couldn't run there in time.
Right. Every time they got there, it was gone. And this is what happened on the Bhutan Yeti. Bhutan is a country near Nepal. And so they were in Bhutan, in the mountains, looking for Yeti. Okay, and same thing happened. They saw something on the FLIR. It was way down the mountain from them. They wouldn't be able to get to it in time, but they ran down the mountain.
Did they run, or did they do the Yeti stomp?
The Yeti stomp.
Stomp, stomp,
Backyardigans.
Stomp. Doing that Yeti stomp.
That was my favorite. I think one of my favorite cartoon episodes by itself is the Backyardigans Yeti, because my favorite part is the kid's eating raisins and then he like drops them and the other kid says, "Look, it's Yeti droppings." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Oh, Yetis are always dropping things."
Yeah, see, they're clumsy little creatures. Can't hold anything to save their life. That's why they're extinct or so rare, because they can't hold on to stuff.
They can't hold on to their food, so they're just dropping it.
They're just dropping stuff.
Anyway, they run down there. They find footprints, big footprints, and hair, white hair. when they get to the bottom of the mountain. So they did find some hair. They took it and had it analyzed in Texas by a DNA specialist named Dr. Melba Ketchum. Dr. Melba Ketchum. And
Great name, by the way.
great name. And so at the end of the episode, this is like the last thing in the episode, Josh Gates goes to Texas, where she's from. She has this tiny lab in Texas, but it's a DNA lab, and gets the answers to what it was. And the DNA testing equipment and the database has millions of species in it. So, you know, pretty much every known species, as much as possible, has been documented.
Okay.
The hair was not in the database, but it was primate DNA. And it was like semi-human, but not quite human, but it was primate DNA.
So are you going to go on a limb and say that that's proof that there is a Yeti in Bhutan?
In my mind, I was like, there you go. You have an undocumented primate. So at the very least, it's a primate that has not been documented in the database.
Nice.
But the plot thickens. Okay, so I thought that was great. This is awesome. In fact, it made the news in Bhutan, and I think even Nepal. It was like a big story, but breaking news about the Yeti. Evidence of the Yeti found, DNA evidence of it, and so that's awesome.
So you got something else.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna come back to the United States.
Okay.
Good old US of A, and talk about the Bigfoot.
Bigfoot! Would you ever
The
go hunting?
Squatch. Would I ever go Squatch hunting?
Yeah.
Yes, I would. I'd totally do it.
Maybe we should do that after this episode.
Maybe.
Connor has soap that could help you. He just ordered some
just
soap
ordered
from
Sasquatch soap.
Dr. Squatch. so,
Dr. Squatch soap.
yeah. So you could use that. and
This
that would help
episode
you.
brought to you by Dr. Squatch soap, retroactively maybe. Maybe they'll come back and hear this and they'll sponsor us for this episode. But okay, so the Bigfoot. The thing about Bigfoot is, you know, there's Native American legends about the Bigfoot. There are thousands of sightings across America and Canada, Alaska, of Bigfoot. So I mean, like, Bigfoot's a big deal. All right, you just think about it. Like, if anybody would have said, "Hey, I saw Johnny Depp," and that many people would have said they saw Johnny Depp, everybody would be like, "Oh yeah, surely they saw Johnny Depp there." If there were that many eyewitness accounts.
Right. That makes sense.
As cryptid as he can be. But because it's a mythical creature, there's more skepticism it's met with. Even though I've heard that in parts of Washington, there are Sasquatch preservation areas where you're not allowed to, like, build on or hunt and things like that.
Are you kidding?
I remember seeing it. That was years ago.
I had
remember
no
seeing
idea.
It was like on the Daily News or something like that. It was one of those, they were kind of poking fun at it. But yeah, it's like there are areas where it's enough that they feel like it should be preserved.
So do people think that there's like this whole family of Bigfoots?
Oh,
or-
it would be an entire species, you know.
So there's just tons and tons and
possibly
tons.
several species, subspecies
Okay.
of this. And it's essentially a primate that is rare and very elusive, which is why we don't have any solid concrete evidence. But I was looking through, there's like DNA footage of, or not DNA footage.
That would be easy.
DNA footage. You actually see their DNA. No, there's video footage of like different ones, like caught with drone cameras, and but it's like it could be a guy in a big fursuit, you know.
Okay.
You can never. There's one that was pretty cool. It was like a white one that was caught, but it was like a flashlight. It was like a split second, things like that. So that's why we're turning to DNA evidence. Well, here's the crazy thing. All right, guess who's testing the DNA evidence for
Melba!
Dr. Melba Ketchum is testing. So basically, it's kind of like since that show, it's become kind of a passion of hers to prove the existence of Bigfoot, apparently, as well as, you know, having found that. And so here's some crazy things. So in 2013, Dr. Melba, or around there, it might have been 2012, but she published that she had sampled 111 different samples, hair, blood, tissue samples from 14 states, 2 Canadian provinces, and they all showed evidence of Bigfoot. So there was like some sort of humanoid primate DNA.
No way.
Yeah.
Did it share similarities with the one from Bhutan?
I don't think it didn't really say, but it was
Oh.
just because it was focusing on Bigfoot
Bigfoot.
and how it was that. Now here's the thing: there's a Houston. So she's out of Texas, right? And so there's
Okay.
this reporter from the Houston Chronicle named Eric Berger, and he took those samples and he had a private genetic sample or an analyst sample them, and his conclusions were it was just several different animals forest critters and all that, including like possums and things like that.
So he said.
So he's like,
she's wrong.
debunked. It's like, and she was mad at him. She's like, no, that's not true. And this is where it kind of gets crazy because the reporter Eric Berger, he wouldn't give the name of the geneticist who did the samples.
No, that's not cool.
He's like, here's his reason. He's like, listen, DNA analyzing is serious science. And he didn't want to tarnish the reputation of this analyst because he's chasing after myths. And I'm like, well, in my mind, that wouldn't tarnish it. He would be the scientist that debunked the Bigfoot, not, he wasted his time and precious equipment looking for Bigfoot. My mind is like, no, he debunked. It's okay to be a debunker. That's like
he'd be the hero to all the skeptics.
Yes, exactly. But he's not. He never released it, and this was back in 2013. He never released it, and so you can go on. Dr. Ketchum has a Facebook. And so she like posts stuff on Facebook, and she's still looking at, like, she posted a picture of a scalp, like literally like the top of the skull and some hair of a Yeti that's from Nepal, I think. I can't remember. But so if you go to her Facebook, Dr. Melba Ketchum, she's still like doing the deal. She's still hunting and all that. But I think, honestly, truth be told, throughout history, there have been sightings, there have been eyewitness accounts, there have been semi-solid evidence. But I think until we capture one live or recover an entire body of one of these animals, I think they're just going to be met with skepticism all around. I think nobody's going to believe like 100%, or not everybody will believe 100% in these things until you actually catch one.
No, okay, I get that we haven't found a body. Because, animals and they carnage.
Right, right.
What about bones? Have bones ever been discovered of a primate too large to be...
Yeah, I think, and if you go to, there's tons of websites. I couldn't explore them all, but there are several of them that are like, yes, we found bones. They're not bear. They're not, moose or whatever. They're real. And again, they could be like, no, it could be. And that was one of the things in Destination Truth they did find was some bone vertebrae, but they said it could be a bear. So, apparently the vertebrae are close enough to where it could be a bear. So that was one of the things that Destination Truth found that they said probably wasn't the Yeti because it was just probably a bear. So, but here's the thing. Here's what's funny. The truth be told, throughout history, cryptids have been found. Okay? And we don't realize it anymore because we're like, oh yeah, that's that. Like, for instance, do you remember the platypus? Of course. We all have heard of platypi.
The platypus used to be a cryptid?
People thought it was sewn together. Whenever they first discovered it, people were like, you're making this up. How could a mammal lay eggs and have a duck's bill? We're making, they thought it was made up.
And be a super spy
and
like
be a
Terry.
super spy, yes. That platypus was at one time considered a cryptid.
I did not know that.
Giant squid. Now, obviously squid we've known that have existed forever, but there were always legends, like the Kraken, of giant squid that could attack boats, and people didn't believe them. But now there's photographic, those legitimate documentation of giant squid longer than school buses. They're huge, and so those are the oarfish, which is what a lot of you're giving me that look.
What is an oarfish?
An oarfish, well, it's usually the second option on an airplane. Do you want chicken or fish? No.
Okay, that was funnier than I was expecting it to be.
No, oarfish, O-A-R, which is what they believe people thought they were when they were seeing sea serpents.
I'm sorry.
We're not getting over this
I'm
one.
still laughing at your joke.
Would you like the chicken or fish? They've never had oarfish. Does it taste like chicken? Anyway, sea serpents. Sea serpent legends were probably people seeing oarfish, which is really, it looks like a giant, it's kind of a flat snake looking, but it's apparently considered a fish. The oarfish, yeah.
That is so interesting. It makes me never want to swim in the ocean.
Yeah. Well, get this. Kangaroo were also considered cryptids at one time. They were like, yeah.
Kangaroo?
Yeah. So, who knows, when Australia was virgin territory for people and, explorers were coming over and they're like, Australia is completely different, mate. They weren't saying that, but... they were encountering all sorts of crazy things, like the platypus and things. And they're just these things do not exist anywhere else in the world. So really, a lot of the things probably from Australia could have been cryptids at one time because people they don't exist. Now, a lot of these were cryptids before video and photography were prevalent, but they were still cryptids, And then we're still seeing like lots of living fossils, things that, people did not think existed anymore, and they're finding them, like prehistoric fish and prehistoric other animals. And so, who knows? Someday we may find a real Bigfoot. Maybe someday we'll, be able to cohabitate with Bigfoots, and we'll, share pine cone recipes.
Maybe they'll be able to tell us that they don't actually like being called Bigfoot.
Maybe they don't like that. Maybe it's offensive to them. Maybe they're just like, listen, we just have
normal size feet.
You guys are the Littlefoot, which I guess there is a movie now, right? Out there called Littlefoot or something.
Oh, yeah.
About a Sasquatch that catches a guy or something. Or is it a Yeti that catches a guy?
Something like that. Yeah. I don't remember.
I haven't seen it yet, clearly. So that brings us to the question of the day, of course. Have you ever seen a cryptid? Maybe you have encountered something that you can't explain, a Bigfoot or some sort of reptilian creature or something out there in the woods that you're like, that was not categorical.
And your siblings don't count.
And your siblings or your crazy uncle
doesn't count.
So to my nieces and nephew, I don't count. Okay. But that's my question. Have you seen it? What have you seen? If you've seen one, we'd be curious if any of our listeners have seen one, because that'd be pretty cool. I'd like to hear about it.
I would like to hear about it.
Yeah. So that is it for Nature's Mysteries. I could literally go on for hours about what there is out there. Some crazy things. Destination Truth was one of my favorite shows. We'd watched it like pretty much. We binge watched that one, and so I love that kind of thing. Cryptozoology is big. I do bring in a little skepticism.
A little bit.
I do bring a little bit of skepticism, because I'm not going to be like, everything is evidence, because that's just dumb. I mean, nobody.
That's just dumb.
Nobody should go into anything with just like, I'm going to believe everything I see, because that's just foolishness. But I do think that whenever we think about it, we have to go in with an understanding that we have not discovered every animal that's out there.
That's true.
We have to admit that, and we have to understand that there could be things that we just don't know.
We just don't know.
And we also have to realize that our eyes and mind and memory, which we're going to find out later this month, play some serious tricks on us if we're not careful about that. And so we can't just go through, accepting everything as evidence, because we, might fall for anything.
Well done.
Yeah.
I learned some stuff, and I was obviously entertained.
Yes. So I'm glad. So, we're about done with this podcast. And I'm getting hungry, so what would you rather have, chicken
or
fish? Apparently.
Bye.
Bye.